Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Friday, the 7th of April. So, welcome to Non-Farm Payrolls Day. So, what have we got in store today? I'll give you the news basis first. We've got the manufacturing production data coming out this morning at 9:30 for the pound, so some volatility expected there at 9:30. Often would see 20 odd pip moves on this data, so would be expecting similar today. We got the Bank of England, Governor Carney speaking, due to speak at Thomson Reuters in London at 10 o'clock. Could create some volatility around 10 as well then. So then we got the big news, the non-farm payrolls at 1:30. Again, we'll be looking at the average hourly earnings for the inflationary sort of pressures for the US as opposed to really employment, because the employment figures of 4.7, the unemployment rate, I should say, of 4.7 is seen as being pretty much a comfortable figure to live with and an average sort of number. So it really sits around inflation there. So we'll be looking for that at 1:30. Thereafter, there's very little data or economic news coming out. We've got a Fed speaker later on, FOMC member Dudley speaking, and really talking about financial regulation. So no real interest later. So let's look forward to non-farms. And we, as I say, we've got two pips of news there this morning, 9:30 and 10 o'clock, which may create some volatility. Now let's have a look at the individual markets, starting with the euro dollar, and it continues to consolidate in this very tight range of around about 50 pips. It's at the moment, to me, with the longer it dilly-dallies here, it hasn't got the strength to run up. It's had some flavour to the downside. Now I'm sort of looking at this thinking, well, perhaps it'll roll, but we'll just see how we turn out this morning. It surprised us yesterday the way it rolled. I say surprised us, it gave us an opportunity and we managed to get a nice long from it. But this sell point yesterday, with Draghi's comments coming out, created a new low, recent low. So we're sort of expanding that wedge a little bit. There is still some potential for the euro to push beyond that monthly pivot and maybe up to its weekly pivot, and it could do it in a day pretty easily. It's not like it's 250 pips away or something. So there's a possibility, but it really depends, I think, on the non-farm payrolls out later. At this stage, looking at the trends on this hourly, well, I'll just pop a trend line across the lows there. We could be looking either here or a more aggressive sort of view post 8 o'clock here, and maybe, and it really depends on how this candle sort of fits out. We could be looking for the long side on the break of the upside, but again, may run into resistance, but that resistance of through that 50, 34, etc. I mean, these moving average now are getting worn out, I should imagine, because the price is just running through it backwards and forwards. So it's more really looking at yesterday's highs potentially, and of course yesterday's lows terms when you start breaking down. Okay, that's the euro. The pound's been moving a little bit easier and giving us a sort of more or less surprises in some respects. That said, yesterday's move, did pop higher at one stage, but sold off, and well, we're in nowhere land at the moment. So again, it's that sort of from this 4-hourly chart, you can see, well, we're below the weekly, above the monthly, and it's between a rock and a hard place at how we're sitting at the moment. And looking at the shorter time frames here, there's some potential sell points as if we again, very aggressive looking trend line running across there, so you start seeing a break to that direction. Well, I'd be looking for maybe a move down to the S1 or Wednesday's lows. Alternatively, if we're looking, if I can pop this on there, be somewhere in that region. If we see a break back above this high this morning, well, maybe we've got to move up to yesterday's highs, R1 sort of area, maybe back towards that weekly pivot. Again, I think the real, well, with the pound, we've obviously got those two news events coming on 9:30, 10 o'clock. It may give us a bit more movement, but aside of those, we'll probably be waiting for the non-farms. Dollar yen, Big picture here, daily as well. It's really, again, it's pretty range bound. We're seeing very range bound markets, and it's unusual maybe at this time of year to see quite tight ranges, but for so long, over a number of days. But and with the yen, it's been over a number of weeks really into quite a tight range here. Um, Looking at the 60-minute here, not really given too much of a clue. Lower highs, lower low there. So perhaps if it continues to break south here, we could see a move back down. It's really, it's like throwing a coin at the moment, these markets. And for that reason, I think the euro probably looks like it might show us a sort of bit of a signal this morning, but all of these markets are really not clear to read. Aussie dollar, well, this is broken through its Gartley. It's done probably pretty much a one-to-one move from the high down now to this second move here. Its Gartley's still there, but it's not as clear as it was. It's a break of the upper trend line there from this 4-hourly pattern back towards maybe 34.50 could be on. It could still work that Gartley out a little bit. Said I don't really trade the Aussie dollar, so keeping away, but it does have a daily pivot above us, so any I don't know, break and shove upwards could be a draw for the price action to back towards that. It would also confirm a higher low and maybe give a little bit more movement, but again, the non-farmers would be the key factor later on. Finally, the Canadian dollar. Let's just look at it. Just have a quick flick through, looking at oil. Oil's shoved up a little bit this morning, and it closed up yesterday more positive. So it should be bringing the Canadian dollar down against the US dollar. Well, it's doing barely. It's done a little bit, not significant. And so it just shows you how lacking in direction these markets are at the moment. In terms of looking for breaks here, well, perhaps we could be looking at a trend line across the highs there to see if we get a break across. Oops, let's get that on there. If we can get a break of this move here, it could be more on a positive, looking for the upside there. I would expect to be trading that. I'd be wanting to see oil price coming off just to give me a bit more chance of a decent move. Alternatively, well, we could be drawing a trend line across the lows here as well and be playing back towards the monthly pivot, maybe more. But it is, again, it's so bitty, and I'm really keeping out of these markets whilst they're like this, or trading with very small positions. It's just a case of if there's a clear case on the shorter time frames, we may have a sort of move up into some resistance or support on the longer time frames. But all of these markets are, as I say, in a state of chop. 60 minutes not going to give us too much more detail here. The break may be a break of those lows there on that horizontal support. May give some movement, but it's not looking like it's got a lot in it. Now, just to be aware, with the Canadian dollar, it's just not the US non-farm farm payrolls we should be looking at, because at 1:30 we get the Canadian job change as well. So the Canadian dollar can be quite volatile, and it can either get a double whammy if it has poor results and the US come out as good, or vice versa, or it could be a mixed figure and the data jumps all over the place. So not a good one to be trading for the news this afternoon, but certainly it should see some volatility later. Okay, that's it for me. Have a great day. Bye for now.